Number
Okay.
110.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Okay, let's give it a try. Okay.
Yes, now we can see you.
Okay, wonderful. I'm
You
here
were
today to
here
speak in
earlier.
favor of SB 1067.
Yeah.
I've been a nurse for 9 years, and I'm currently part of a cross-facility float pool in which I can be placed on any medical, surgical, or intermediate care floor in 3 different area hospitals that are owned by the same company. As a member of this float pool, I am not protected by union membership, but I am willing to take the risk of retaliation in order to share my experience and advocate for my patients and for my profession. I have witnessed how, even before the pandemic, unsafe staffing ratios compromise patient care to the point of being dangerous. I am joining you today to outline a recent shift that I worked on a general medical surgical unit. During that shift, we had 18 patients on the floor with 3 nurses, no nursing assistant, and no unit secretary to help answer telephone calls, patient call bells, and assist with communication between medical and nursing staff. What that means is I was responsible for meeting every need for 6 people, 6 patients all day long. Providing even the minimum of care at that ratio is impossible. There were 3 patients on the floor that day with dementia who were at risk of harming themselves due to lack of understanding of safety risks. 3 of the patients on the floor were unable to feed themselves and needed to be fed all 3 meals 1-to-1 with staff. You can do the math. It doesn't work. 4 patients had surgery and needed extra attention with increased frequency of monitoring of vital signs and pain control. 2 of my patients were diabetic, requiring monitoring blood sugar and providing insulin in all 3 meals. And with that ratio, I was unable to complete it for all 3 meals in a timely manner. Under the proposed bill, we would have had 1 additional nurse and 2 CNAs, which would have allowed us to meet the basic needs of our patients. I have listened to nursing leadership's testimony, stating that they are actively working to recruit new nurses and are concerned about building up the pipeline for nurses entering the profession. If safe nurse to patient ratios were mandated in our state, we wouldn't continue to lose experienced workers who have been leaving the field in droves to find a career that provides a working environment that is less physically, mentally, and emotionally taxing. The focus needs to be on retention in addition to recruitment. People representing hospitals' interests will tell you that it's too expensive to provide this level of staffing and that the staff does not exist. This is not true. The only shortage that exists is a shortage of people willing and able to work under these conditions. And the representation of nurses being like hospital hopping to go for a good sign on bonus is actually a representation of the lack of retention efforts, and all the focus is on recruitments and sign-on bonuses. But we need to create an environment that will keep nurses at the bedside for the longevity of their careers. So this crisis
Excuse me,
does
Ms.
not.
Matthews, but your
Yes,
time
ma'am.
is up. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And I think you were here earlier for part of the day, so we wanted to thank you for physically being here, but you had to step out. We appreciate what you were saying. Do you want to finish your sentence that you were about to finish?
Sure. I'll, just in conclusion, the crisis does not only affect healthcare workers and our working environment, it affects every citizen in the state because at some point, everyone will be themselves or have a loved one become a patient. So if this legislation is passed, Connecticut will become a leader in patient safety. And as a nurse in the state of Connecticut, that's what I would like to represent. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I see Senator Marks has a question or comment. Senator Marks.
Yep. Thank you, Emily, so much for your testimony. I am a nurse. I don't know if you knew that. And when you tell that story about the day, a bad day on the floor, when I graduated in 1985, there was a nursing shortage. And I was in a very acute pediatric ward. And I still wake up at night, almost 40 years later. I still have bad dreams about some of those patients and about hanging platelets on the wrong person or hanging antibiotics on the wrong person, or, I mean, we all have them. So we really haven't talked about that. I've been on most of today's hearing. Do you feel that a lot of nurses are having that kind of, I guess it's PTSD, but that kind of anxiety, that those bad days or bad nights on the floor just stay with them for a while?
100%. Any nurse that's been working over the last even longer than COVID, 5 years, 3 to 5 years, can tell you the shift that changed them. I can tell you right now the shift that changed me as a nurse. I walked into a 7 patient acute care medical level assignment with 7 patients with one CNA for the 21 patients on the unit. That day changed me as a nurse. That day is what gave me the courage to speak up today, because our people are being neglected, and we cannot continue day after day after day to walk into that kind of a working environment. And sometimes we'll leave at the end of our shift. Last week, I left them at the end of my shift, knowing that the scenario that I outlined was exactly what I was going to be walking into that next day. Do you think I slept? I did not, because of the anxiety, that walking into such an unsafe situation puts on us. And I honestly, there was one of my colleagues was coming back the next day. I don't know how they did it. I was thankful I had a couple days off, but even that day I went back, I was still like hesitant, very anxious about going back to the floor.
So we hear that people don't believe that the staffing ratios they're going to be able to do them, and that if they do, they're going to turn people away, which we all know the hospitals are not going to turn people away, and nurses don't want to. But what do you feel like from your heart? What will having the staffing ratios do for the morale, for the anxiety, what will it do for the nurses on the hospital floor?
I think it will make this job sustainable. What I've seen, I've been in this float pool for the last 3 years, and I've watched the 2 years of new grads come in and be burnt out because they don't have the training that I got as a nurse, as a new nurse in the before times, to be able to figure out the priority of everything that's kind of just flown at them. They're just running around putting out fires. That is not a sustainable working environment. You can't do that for 12 to 14 hours a day, 3 to 4 days a week. It's impossible to maintain any kind of work-life balance, any kind of mental stability. It's impossible.
Thank you, Emily. If you do get retaliated against, I know a few good nurses that will definitely help you. So give us a call, okay?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye-bye.
And I'll just add, good legislators will be there for you too. So
Thank you, sir.
seeing no other questions or comments, we thank you for being here with us today. And thank you. The next person on our list is Deeta Bhargava. Welcome, Deeta. Good to see you.